Julian Bream is regarded by many to have been the greatest classical guitarist of all time. He almost single-handedly turned the instrument from being a marginal novelty to taking centre stage at large concert halls around the world. Julian was born in Battersea in South London. He was one of 8 children of a commercial artist and his wife. I asked Julian's friend, the writer and broadcaster Andrew Green, where his passion for the guitar came from.
It was really the effect of his father's interest in jazz guitar. That's what really appealed to him.
The music that really interested me and enthused me was the Hot Club of France with Stefan Grappelli and Django Reinhardt. And it was Reinhardt's guitar playing that so stimulated me musically that I was drawn to the guitar like a magnet.
Then things changed, having got so far with help from his father and an amount of sort of self-tuition. He then one day heard a Segovia recording, which his father brought home. And he said that this completely changed everything. From that moment, as it were, on that day, listening to this Segovia recording, he decided that he was going to be a classical guitarist. He was very largely self-taught, and he couldn't go to the Royal College of Music to study guitar. It just wasn't possible.
What, you mean the Royal College of Music didn't recognise the guitar as an instrument that you could learn there?
Absolutely not. It's for sort of folk music or it's for jazz. He was only admitted on the assumption that he would learn the piano as well as composition and harmony and counterpoint. So, he got the benefit from a Royal College of Music education in other ways, which of course served him in good stead.
Now, as I get nearer the sound hole with my plucking finger, the sound becomes rounder and more mellow. Listen. And this, of course, is a great thing for the guitar because it hasn't got great dynamic possibilities, but I feel that it makes up for the lack in dynamic possibilities with its great range of colour.
Julian went on to become a successful soloist, playing guitar and lute to large audiences and making many acclaimed recordings. But in the 1950s, the repertoire for classical guitar was extremely limited, so Julian performed transcriptions of existing pieces, revived neglected early music scores, and commissioned new works by leading contemporary composers. Among them was Lennox Berkeley. His son, Michael, also a composer, recalls his early encounters with Julian Bream.
I first met him when I was a child, and my father was writing the sonatina for him, and I thought he was a larger-than-life character. He came along and he said, I'll just get the old box out, as he used to call it, and then we can try out what you've been sketching for my father. And in fact, that was the sonatina, which became a sort of staple of the repertoire. And he was enormously amusing, great bonhomie, but a deadly serious musician. Julian's commitment to new works for the guitar was so absolute that if he couldn't get an Arts Council grant or a festival, say, to pay for something, he would dip into his own pocket. Of course, he was quite a well-paid soloist at that time. I mean, there are many musicians who couldn't afford to do this, but Julian did literally, if you like, put his money where his mouth was. What Bream wanted people to do was not write music that looked back He wanted composers to be able to express their modernist, if you like, even avant-garde ideas in terms of the guitar. Now, for a lot of composers, that's a very frightening thing to do because most composers don't actually play the guitar, and writing for the guitar is completely different from writing, say, for a piano or an orchestra or a string quartet. Julian was marvellous. He would say to composers, write what you want. Doesn't matter how un-guitar-like you think it might be, and then I'll see if I can make it work.
Although he never said it directly, I felt that the work that meant most to him, and indeed was most challenging of all, was the work that Benjamin Britten wrote for him, the Nocturnal after John Dowland.
And talking of Benjamin Britten, Julian accompanied Peter Pears too, didn't he?
It's just magical to listen to the recordings that they made.
Fine necks for ladies, cheap, choice, brave and new. Good penny works, but money cannot move. I keep a fair.
He said, for the first time, I'd had to learn how to breathe like a singer. It taught him how to phrase in a new way, and that benefited him, I'm sure, through his career.
To me, Julian Bream will forever be entwined with John Williams and an album my father had of duets that they recorded together, which I think was a huge success.
Absolutely so. I mean, look, it's these two towering geniuses, nobody else approaching their esteem. It wasn't the most natural partnership in musical terms. I know that Julian said that it was sort of chalk and cheese, but that, I think, was what the appeal was.
When we put the old box away, as it were, after an afternoon's work, he would open some bottles of very fine wine, and his love of cricket was consuming.
I was involved in the setting up of a concert series at Lord's Cricket Ground, and finally on walks Julian, and where's the guitar? And what's that on his head? It's a cricket cap above his concert dress, and he's got pads on his legs, he's carrying a bat. Of course, laughter everywhere. And then he uttered the immortal line, I've always wanted to play at Lord's.
He taught me to really understand what it meant to be a musician who was completely single-minded, ruthlessly focused on their art. He was really responsible for completely revolutionizing the repertoire for the guitar, the 20th century repertoire.
The playing of Julian Bream, CBE, who's died aged 87.